afternoon and welcome to the NCC Newsroom at the Newhouse School of Public Communications. I'm Carmela Boykin.
And I'm Domenica Orellana. This is the 6 o'clock stream of Democracy in Action, an annual Election Day project covering voting around Onondaga County, run by the broadcast and digital journalism, newspaper, magazine, and online and photography departments.
Throughout the day, we'll bring you live coverage from dozens of polling places in central New York.
Over 96,000 voters have already cast their ballots today in Onondaga County, in addition to over 59,000 early ballots. That is the most early voting in Onondaga County history since they began collecting data in 1996. With 308,296 people registered to vote in the county, officials believe about 200,000 people could vote in person today. Onondaga County Board of Elections Commissioner Dustin Sarney says he expects about 3/4 of the results to be available tonight, but Onondaga County likely will not know the results until next week. The results from early in-person voting will be available at 9 p.m. tonight, and results from today's votes will be available starting at 10 p.m. However, it will not be until November 9th when the Board of Elections will start giving daily updates on results from absentee ballots.
Moving nationally, there are a few key states in the presidential election that will determine the final outcome. Florida, Pennsylvania, Ohio, Michigan, North Carolina, Arizona, and Wisconsin are all swing states. While former Vice President Joe Biden is leading in polls in most of these states, it doesn't mean he will actually win them. In 2019, polls showed Hillary Clinton leading in swing states, but undercounted Trump voters. Also, these polls may be overcounting Biden voters, those who say they will vote but don't turn out. And according to major news calculation outlets, they say that Joe Biden could win both Michigan and Wisconsin, and that President Trump could win Ohio, which would make Joe Biden have almost 270 win. If he also wins Pennsylvania, that would give him the electoral votes that he needs. However, it is all determined on who shows out to the election.
There are many first-time voters this year. Democracy in Action's James Carrigan tells us about it. James?
Well, many of the voters here in Cicero are tried and true veterans of the polls, but the voters that I spoke to near the SU campus on Marshall Street today were not only largely college age, but many were making their maiden voting voyage. Marshall Street is one of the centers of life on the SU campus. But instead of buying orange gear or grabbing a sugary snack, students flocked across the street to vote at Huntington Hall, many for the first time.
I thought it was a pretty cool experience to be able to go there and, give my own voice in our democracy.
I feel like I had the power to do something now.
I don't know, it was my first time, but I was a little nervous, I guess, when I walked in there, but it was good.
Walking in and casting a ballot for the first time can be intimidating. What were you nervous about?
Just the first time.
Doing something wrong, I guess, filling out something wrong, something like that.
Like the larger SU student body, many of these voters do not originally hail from the Syracuse area.
Westchester County.
Manhattan. Originally from New York City.
Massapequa.
Unadilla, New York.
I'm from Union Springs, New York.
I'm originally from Texas.
The decision of students to vote here instead of in their hometowns is largely due to the easy access the university gives them to vote.
The university made it very accessible and easy for me to vote here.
I was able to just walk right in and didn't really have to do anything new.
For one student, though, the decision was more strategical.
Well, local elections this year with Dana Balter and Catco, definitely a big year, and we definitely want to make sure there's impact and change made in this local community as well.
So regardless of the motivation, one enduring principle remains for these students.
I feel like it's a responsibility to vote, and it's a privilege, so why not use that privilege?
I would say I felt empowered being able to show my voice.
Now, while New York's electoral votes may not be in doubt for the presidential race, in the local races, especially for the 24th Congressional District, every youth voter could loom large. Reporting live from Cicero, James Carrigan, Democracy in Action.
Thanks, James. 2020 has displayed a record turnout, and reporter Chris Sachi went to multiple polling sites to see how voters of all ages use their voices.
Voters and volunteers alike came by on Election Day, complete with social distancing guidelines and directions. And perhaps true to form for a high school, there was a good batch of young voters.
We all knew that it was important, and we all wanted to have our first experience voting together, just to say that we did that. Like, it's our first time, we made a change. Our vote matters.
Alexandria and her friends behind her are Lemoyne College students. She pointed out that increased activism in a crazy 2020 year might have a certain side effect.
Everything going on really sparks something in all young voters. COVID, there are riots and everything going on. There's saying riots after this. It's just everyone needs to come together, and if we can all vote, even if it's all different types of vote, as long as you vote, it makes a difference.
Now from Nottingham High School to a place near downtown Syracuse.
Welcome to the Nancy Cantor Warehouse on West Fayette Street. I'm Chris Sachi, reporting for Democracy in Action. Behind me, everyone is getting ready to vote. The polling stations are open and ready for today.
Here, the crowd had a bit more experience.
The more and more I've gotten older, the more divisive the country's gotten. You know, you have your voice at least heard to vote, and that's what I appreciate.
You know, I am keenly aware that elections have consequences, and I've always sort of understood that since I've been voting 18 years old. The fact that we've faced so many challenges has activated people's citizenry and willingness to participate in their government, you know, and so voting is certainly that way of showcasing your voice.
Reporting for the
Thanks, Chris. And voting started early this morning and will continue late into the evening. Samantha Crossan is here with a business lending voters a helping hand.
I'm standing outside Park Hill School right now, where voters have been going in and out of these doors all day long. Earlier today, I checked out Camillus Fire Station, where Cafe Cubal employee Mike Haggerty was helping out and giving free coffee to volunteers and to voters. Now, Mike Haggerty says that he was doing this as a favor to the chief, Jim McBride, Fire Camillus Station chief. Now, McBride had been giving out coffee during the early voting, but he says that to have someone helping him with it on Election Day has been huge.
Thanks for coming out. Can we get you a free cup of coffee today?
Voting on Election Day can be a stressful experience for many reasons. The lines, the cold weather, and the big decision at stake. But Cafe Cubal employee Michael John Haggerty found a way to lighten voters' moods.
For us, it's all about getting out and bringing the coffee to the people. Although we don't have a Camillus location, it was an easy call for us to provide free coffee day of. We knew it was going to be cold and voters could use a little pick-me-up.
People had their own reasons for appreciating Cafe Cubal's kindness. 90-year-old voter Joan Siebert says the coffee helps to ease the tension voters feel on Election Day.
Oh, it just makes you feel good that there's people out there thinking about you. I know it's helping me to smile a little and appreciate other people out there.
For Congressman John Caco's wife, Robin Caco, coffee is a way to unite people across party lines.
Oh, I think it definitely brings people together. Who doesn't love coffee in the morning on a brisk, cold morning, you know?
Whether you had a good voting experience or a stressful one, the one thing you can count on is Cafe Cubal will have a hot cup of coffee waiting for you at the finish line, and you wouldn't be the first one to say yes to that cup. They've already served a couple hundred, and they've only been here for a few hours. People have differences.
I'm a regular. My husband's a decaf. So there you go.
Black.
In their coffee preferences and their political ideologies. But Haggerty says coffee is a tool that people can use to start having conversations about the issues that are dividing them.
Whether you're voting for A or B doesn't change the fact that you can have a warm cup of coffee and hang out and even potentially discuss the differences at a cafe.
Now, Haggerty's promise is that he would stay until he ran out of coffee. That happened this morning at 10 a.m. But even without the coffee, voters have continued to walk through the doors and cast their ballots all day long. Back to you guys in the studio.
Thanks, Samantha. Polls for the 2020 election close tonight, so Onondaga County residents are making sure their ballot is in. Democracy in Action reporter Natalie Fahmy spoke to voters today to find out just why they're voting in this year's election.
That's right, I'm at Nottingham High School, a polling place here in Onondaga County, where I've been speaking to voters, and some of them say they're more motivated to cast their ballot in this election than they have been in previous years. The 2020 presidential election is expected to have record voter turnout across the country. And for Syracuse resident Roger Redmond, this election means more than others.
I'm 59 years old, and this is probably the most important election that I've ever voted in.
Redmond says there are many issues that motivated him to vote, but there's one reason that sticks out to him in particular.
This country is divided like I've never seen before, and it's time for us to get back together as one country by getting this guy out of office. So that's the main reason why I'm voting, and hopefully why others are voting also.
Younger voters like 34-year-old Owen Daniel agree and say they are looking for change.
I'm tired of Trump's dangerous rhetoric, so I definitely voted against it.
59-year-old Martani Daru has voted in every election and says they are all significant.
I don't think it's any more important, but yeah, I was more motivated.
Both DeRoy and Daniel say they vote to be sure their voice is heard.
Well, I mean, voting every year, you know, your expectation is the person you're supporting is going to win. And then, you know, so you just wonder if you couldn't do more if the person you're supporting didn't.
I'm just hoping we see some change in government. That's kind of changed from the last 4 years.
And while today is the last day to cast your ballot, it's likely we won't know final election results for at least a week or two due to an increase in absentee voting. Reporting in Syracuse for Democracy in Action, I'm Natalie Fahmy.
The outcome of the race between three-time incumbent John Katko and challenger Dana Balter is one of the closest races in New York State history. Katko beat Balter by 6% in the 2018 congressional election, but as of October 25th, a Siena College poll showed the two candidates tied at 45% each. Balter has a significant advantage among voters in the city of Syracuse, but leads by just 5% in the rest of Onondaga County.
That's all for the third Democracy in Action live stream today. From all of us at the Newhouse School, I'm Domenica Orellana.
And I'm Carmela Boykin. Join us again for updates from the polls at 6 and 8 p.m. tonight.